Myself JAISHREE Jain, and today we will study about the security issues and challenges in cloud computing. So I'm assistant professor in Ajay Kumar Engineering College in CSE department. So firstly, we have to understand what is cloud computing and what are the different services that cloud servers are going to provide to the users, so that we can analyze what are the different services and how the attacker are going to challenge, how the attacker are going to attack on these services. So if the user is going to subscribe those services from the cloud servers, and if any attacker or hacker is going to try to access their applications or access their data, so how can we prevent the attacker or different threat to stop hacking, and how can we protect our data from those hackers? So this is very important to understand what are the different cloud services, and then we will understand what are the different security issues and challenges that occur in the cloud computing. So firstly, we will understand what is cloud computing. As we all know, it is an internet based computing. So where all are going to shared or upload their resources, softwares and information. So there are some providers which are going to provide cloud services. So firstly, the provider have to deploy their services over the cloud. So that depend on the provider which kind of services they are going to provide, like they are deploying different operating systems so that we can work on Linux machine and we can work on latest Windows operating system. So it depend on the provider which kind of service the provider are going to provide. So for example, there are certain resources. Resources means they can deploy different kind of hardwares, and according to the deployed hardware, we can take the service of infrastructure as a service. We can borrow the extra storage from the cloud. We can take the service of extra RAM and processor. So these are all called as a resources, and we can also, there are some softwares. So like we can use online softwares. Nowadays we are all using the online compiler. Like we want to run our Python program, and so we need not to install the Python in our system, and we want to deploy some projects, so we can deploy our project on the cloud. So these all are different kind of services, resources and softwares and informations. So some information there can be, we can access online data, like from kaggle.com we are fetching certain data and doing the machine learning projects on by using that data. So these all kind of data and information we can subscribe from the cloud servers. So this is the provider duty to provide these kind of resources from the cloud internet, and user can search and find the services and can access those services. So these services actually are provided on basis on the demand. So user have to first log in to that service, like from we want to take the service from Amazon. So for user have to firstly sign up and make a account in the Amazon account, and then he or she can log in and take the services. So on demand basis, there are different kind of resources the user demand, and the provider is going to provide those services. So user can access the information from anywhere and anytime. Second properties of cloud computing is that it is location independent, and it is it can be accessed, it is available in any time. So this is also the feature of the cloud computing. So I am talking about the features. So these are all the features. First is the on-demand self services. So user can take the service and can manage accordingly. So it is self services. And broad network access means the area we can access cloud services from any location. Just I have to connect to the any ISP service provider internet, and we can take the service from the cloud by connecting to any cloud server. So it provides broad network access and resource pooling. Resource pooling means there is a pool of the resources that provider going to provide. So any user can select those services from the resource pool. So all the resources are going to pooled and are fetched and get together. They are merged within the same location. So we need not to go from the different server for taking the service. We can all the services we are going to fetch from the same or similar servers. So resource pooling is one important feature of cloud. Then rapid elasticity is what the resources can be scale up and scale down. If I required 4 GB RAM and after I have taken the service of 4 GB RAM and after that I required 8 GB RAM, so it can be scaled up. So there is a kind of feature that is called rapid elasticity. Then measured services and pricing. Measured services is what these services are on basis on the utility. So as per the consumption, there will be a charge that will be paid by the customer. So all the services are going to be measured, and on account of the measured bill or pricing detail, the customer have to be pay what service the customer have subscribed. So these all kind of services are the different, we can say these are all are the different features of the cloud computing that are very important to understand. So next is types of the cloud. So then we have to understand what are the different types or kind of cloud. How can we deploy the different types of cloud? So there are different cloud like private cloud, public cloud, community cloud and hybrid cloud. So the name like private cloud, that is one organization can deploy its own cloud within one organization. So if the organization want the access is already provided to the internal employee only, so that is called as a private cloud. So those cloud is managed by organization itself, and the service solely means only owner of the organization can add the resources and only their employee can access the services. So this is called as a private cloud. Next is a public cloud. Public cloud means, that is the name suggests, like public means it can be accessed by any user outside the organization also. So cloud infrastructure is owned and managed by the large cloud server. So this is called as public cloud, where we have CSPs, we have provided the authorization or owner are the different cloud service provider, and they are going to authorize or they are going to provide the access to the outsider users as well as insider users. Next is community. Community cloud means there is a group of cloud servers, like there are three organization. Organization 1 have its own cloud, organization 2 have its own cloud, organization 3 have its own cloud. So they can club or give the access of their services to their already community users. So only community user can access the resources, no outside user can access the resources. So that is called as a community cloud. And next is the hybrid cloud. Hybrid means there is a combination of two cloud servers. Like if I am going to deploy one private cloud and I am going to provide the access to outsider users also, so that outside of the area or campus, the outside user can also access the services. So that is a combination of public plus private cum public cloud. So there is can be combination of other clouds also, like private cum community cloud, like private cum public community cloud. So there can be any combination that is come under the condition in hybrid cloud. So these all are all the deployment, how can we deploy the cloud servers and who will access the services. So next are the services. So we already understand what are the different services. We have categorized the services into three major part. First is the software as a service, next platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. So how these services is going to be divided in three part. First we can say at bottom, we can say infrastructure as a service is very important. So this is the low bottom level service, this is a middle level, and software as a service is the top level services. So if we are talking about the infrastructure as a service, it means the customer is going to take the service of the hardware, and I am going to take any service of the virtual machine. Actually, infrastructure means the customer is going to take the services of virtual machine. So if I am going to borrow or subscribe the service of virtual machine, then I am the owner of at that time to manage that virtual machine, and I can deploy any kind of software on that virtual machine. I can use any I can store any data on that virtual machine. So infrastructure means the access is under the control of the customer, and customer can manage the resources according to their needs. So vendor offer computing power and storage space on the demand. So we can say in short, we have understand infrastructure means customer is going to take the service of virtual machine, and in other manner we can say customer is going to take the service of processing or storage and networking. So these all compute, network and storage, all three kind of service comes under the infrastructure as a service. Next is the platform as a service. Platform means we are going to take the service of any library support or platform support to run any application. So if in my laptop or in my system there is there is a problem, libraries are missing, and I am unable to install any application on my system. So if I want to deploy my own website, so I need one platform so that I can host my website on the server, and it will become online. So I need some platform to host my website. So there is a requirement of platform. So this kind of service is very important. For deploying any kind of service, we required some kind of platform or library support. So this is the comes under this kind of service. And last one is the software as a service. Software means we are going to take the online softwares, and we are going to run our application program by using that software. So this is very top level service, renting application functionality from service providers, and rather than buying and installing or running the software on our systems. So we can save our cost of taking the license of the software or installing in our machines. So these are the different services of cloud computing. Next, we are talking about the security challenges and security issues. So firstly, we will understand what are the different data related security. So data related security, in this security we can face the challenges of data breach. Data breach means data is going to leak, and if I have uploaded my data on the cloud server, and if anyone attacker is going to access my data, then how can I ensure my sensitive data will be secure? So it's very crucial. So we have to prevent this data breach, and these are the method: confidentiality and integrity. So the provider have to ensure before providing the services, the confidentiality and integrity on the data is going to be protected, so that data will not be leaked. So this is very important. We have to achieve the confidentiality and integrity on the data to prevent it from data leakage. Next is data lock-in. Data lock-in is what? User may lose data if they migrate from one vendor to another vendor. Means if I am going to migrate my services or migrate my data from one server to another server, or one data center to another data center, then there can be a problem of data lock-in. Means if I have taken the services from one service provider, and my data is already, because there is a agreement. So whenever I have taken or subscribe any services, so I can't migrate my data to the another vendor or another server. So there is a problem of data lock-in. Once a user have taken the service, user can't withdraw their service until and unless the that is agreement is going to be over. So this is very important. Next is data remains. Data remanence is what? It is residual representation of data that have been nominally erased or removed in some way. Like you have uploaded your data on the cloud server and the data is going to be deleted on the server. So you will unable to find your data on the cloud server. So this is also a challenge. So the data I have uploaded on the server, that should be available, and that should not be, any file of that data should not be deleted. So this is also one kind of challenge. So these are, next is data recovery and data locality. Data recovery is what? Sometimes server may break down and cause the damage of the data. So there should be some policy so that the server can take the backup of the data, and if these kind of losses are going to be occur, that can be recovered from the backup of the data. So this is one kind of issue. And next is data locality. Data locality is what? In software as a service model, in cloud environment, the user doesn't know where the data is stored. So this is a major challenge in cloud computing, as the user don't know where their data going to be reside. Like I have taken the cloud service from the Amazon, and Amazon have the data center in US or in Canada. So I don't know where my data is going to be located, where is the location. I'm going only to access that data. So this is also one issue, and this issue can be solved by creating the secure software as a service model. So software as a service mean we are going to deploy our application on the software, and I don't know where my data is going to be stored. So I have to follow the secure software as a service model, so that first thing is the location is going to be clear to me, where my data, on which data center my data is going to be stored, and the customer can track the location of the data and can fetch the data in secure manner. So data locality is also one issue, and user should know where the data is going to be reside in which server. Fine. Next is application related issues. So application related issue is what? The kind of application we have subscribed from the cloud server. So there are some attack like cloud malware injection attack. So cloud malware is what? Some attacker are going to insert the some corrupted virtual machine on the server. So this is also one challenge in this attack. A malicious virtual machine or the service implementation is injected into the cloud system. So if a user have taken the service of cloud computing and cloud services, and user is going to attach their vulnerable virtual machine on the cloud server, so it is going to be affect or trying to access the data of another virtual machine. So there can be a problem of data leakage, and the user data can be stolen. So this is one kind of challenge on the application related security. Next is cookie poisoning. Cookie poisoning is what? In this, an unauthorized access is the made into the application. Cookie poisoning means what are the different cookie that when we access any data over the internet, then cookies are going to be stored in our system, and if those cookies are going to fetch the data from my system, then the user data can be stolen. So this is also one kind of challenge. So if the unauthorized access is made into the application by modifying the content of the cookie. So any attacker can modify the content of the cookie that are saved on the application. So from that cookie, the unauthorized access can be provided to the attacker, and attacker can change the data or can access the data over the internet. So this is also one kind of challenge. Next is backdoor and debug option. Backdoor and debug option is what? There are certain kind of vulnerabilities that can occur from the there are loopholes and some vulnerability. So some attacker are going to have the unauthorized access to access the application's data. So debug option is for the developers who use it to implement and changes requested at later stage in the website. So if there is any the developer are going to change some website data, so this is the right of the developer to make the debugging and can change the website data, since these debugging option provide the back entry for the developers. So developers can, if developer is authentic, then there is no problem, but if developer is corrupted, then any attacker can change the website content, modify the content, and so sometimes these debug options are the left enabled unnoticed, and they may provide the easy access to the hacker. So this is one kind of breach, and we can say this is the backdoor entry, or any hacker is going to change the application via the debug option. So this is one kind of challenge. And next is hidden field manipulation. Hidden field, like the user have access or privilege to access some application, or user don't have privilege to access some application. So certain fields are already hidden on the website that user have no permission to access that content. So that hidden fields it is used by the developers only. So hacker can easily modify those hidden fields on the web pages. So this is also the one challenge or one security breach over the cloud services. So next is CSP level attacks. Firstly, we have understand data related attack. Next are the application level attacks, and next are the provider level. CSP is what? Cloud service providers. So cloud service provider level attacks are there. So first is gas hopping attack and SQL injection attack. Gas hopping attack is what? Attacker will try to get access on one virtual machine by penetrating another virtual machine that is hosted on the same hardware. So attacker is trying to penetrate or can want to access the data of virtual machine through the by taking the access on the one virtual machine. So this is we called as VM crawling. If we have deployed many virtual machines on the cloud server, and user is going to access the data of another virtual machine via taking the service of one virtual machine. So this is called as a gas hopping attack. An SQL injection attack is what? It can be done by injecting the SQL commands into the databases on the application to crash the database. Means the data that is stored on the cloud server on the different data centers. So the attacker will try, if we are going to fetch our data through the SQL command, so any attacker can inject the malware in the form of SQL command. So if the SQL injection attack means any corrupted or malware data is going to be injected through the code, and that is will be inserted into the, for accessing the data we can implement the, we can run the inject malware or infected command. So it will be injected into the database, and all the data will going to be accessed by the attacker. Next, malicious insider and side channel attack. Malicious insider is what? In private cloud, it if the employee is granted the access to the sensitive data, means internal employee are going to access the data, and if internal employee are going to access the data of another user, means only if the customer have right to access the data, and only internal employee can also have the right to change the data of the customer. So some such privilege may expose the information to the security threat. Means the customer data if can be accessed by the cloud administrator or internal employees, so they can also make the data breaches. So malicious insider means insider employee or insider admin can access the data. Side channel attack, it occurs when an attacker places a malicious virtual machine on the same physical machine. So as we know, from one physical machine we can make different virtual machines. So one virtual machine can be act as a victim machine if attacker is going to corrupt the virtual machine, or have the virtual machine is a victim machine, so that he can access all the confidential information on the victim machine. So this can be stopped if we have limited number of virtual machine, and have only the give only the right to the provider, that only provider can create new virtual machine from that physical resources. So this can be prevented by preventing the access to the customer. Next are the network level attacks. So DNS attacks are there that make the hijack the domain name of the server. So domain hijacking is there, and cross site scripting is also there. So domain hijacking is what is defined as changing the name of the domain. So we have already know there are certain fake websites on the server. So we got confused whether we are going to access from the original server, or we are redirected to the different or duplicate server. So uh, this can occur in the domain hijacking system. Domain hijacking means name of the domain without the knowledge or permission of the domain owner or creator. So according to the attacker is going to change the domain, or can have the same name or different access. So this enable the intruder to access the sensitive information. So this is called as a domain hijacking. And next is cross site scripting. Cross site means I am going to access one website, and attacker have redirected my site to the another website, or connected my site. The request is have to go on the legitimate server, but that request is passed to the redirected to the other fake server. So this is called as a cross site scripting. And if I am going to connect to the fake server, then my data going to be hacked by that server. IP spoofing. Next is IP spoofing. Someone can hack or can can access via the same IP. So what is the IP of my system? That can be used by the attacker, or attacker can make the request from by using my IP address. So that is IP spoofing. And there is a attack, denial of service attack. Means on the server there are different requests are going. There is one legitimate request, and other are have the attacker that are going to spoof or flood the server. So the channel get hacked, and denial of service means server get over requests are going to hack or make the jamming signal on the server. So server is unable to respond to the customer. So this is called as a denial of service attack. So these are we can say network level attacks. There are again different attacks are also there. Man in the middle attack or network sniffing attack. So man in the middle attack is already clear from this picture. So there is a client and one is the server, and they are already connected and going to exchange their data, or server client is going to take the service from the server. But in the middle there is one attacker that is going to sense the channel. We can say there are certain eavesdropper that are going to sense the channel, and so the data, when data is going to travel on this channel, that data is going to be also this attacker is going to access that data from the channel. So and then this attacker can remodify that data, or can change the data and then send to the server. So server will understand that the data is going to be the legitimate client, but that is the change data or modified data that will be sent by the infected data that will be sent by the hacker. So hacker can hack the server data by this manner. So next is network sniffing. That is another type of attack. It is a more critical issue in network security, in which unencrypted data are hacked through the network. So if data is unencrypted and there is no security or no password or lock on the data file, then it can be attacked, it can be fetched by the Network sniffers are also, there are certain method like wireless sniffer or external sniffer and internal sniffer. Means these hackers can be have the different method. Through wireless they can going to access your data, like from the remote locations they are going to fetch the data from the server. So there can be various possibility, and attacker are going to access if the your data, if the data is not in encrypted form. So we have to stop the attacker to access the data over the server, and we have to apply certain security methods. So we can say there are certain security method like identification and authenticity, authorization, non-repudiation and availability. So we can apply some rules, or we can apply some security algorithm so that attacker will fail to attack or to access our data. So we have to ensure the authenticity, who will have the access right to access the data, and authorization means access control, who can access which kind of data or which privilege are going to be provided to that user. Means only read permission is there or read come write permission is there. So there can be certain permissions. So in authorization we will have to give the permission to the user what kind of data the user can have access. Non-repudiation, so the server will know who is the intended sender, and sender should know who will be the intended receiver. So there should be a kind of non-repudiation thing. So the sender cannot deny that he will not receive the packet from the intended sender receiver. So this is very important to ensure who is the sender and who is the receiver. And availability means there should not be any denial of service attack. Only legitimate requests should be there, and those requests will be fulfilled by the server at 24/7. So data should be available at all the time, and if the network is slow or the bandwidth is slow, then there should be kind of backup thing, so that if data is going to be corrupted, so we can recover our data from the server. So there are certain security remedies which can be followed by the cloud provider, so that data or other security issues can be resolved. So challenges in cloud computing is security challenges are there, costing model. There are some certain services which have the high cost, so the pricing should be reasonable, and charging model are there. So we have some charges against the different services. So those should be miserable, and there should be some accounting services. Service level agreement is very important because customer should know the policy of the provider and should agree on that agreement, so that if the customer breaks some security policy, then he or she should be responsible for that. Cloud interoperability issues are what? If the server is if the data center is get full, and there are certain requests for storage or for storing of the data, then it will be migrated to other data centers. So if the cloud provider is going to migrate the data of customer from one server to another, so there should not be any interoperability issue. Customer can access the data from any server, and it will be in accessible form or readable form. So interoperability issues should not be there. Oh, thank you so much. This is all about security and privacy challenges.